Hey, Julio, I can't really hear you, just saying. You're muted.
Hello, everyone. Today we have another amazing guest, David Amir, all the way from Holland, entrepreneur. Had some amazing experience to tell us. David, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Julio.
Appreciate it. So, David, so for people who don't know you, how would you characterize yourself?
It's a good question. If we would go from a personality perspective, I guess I'm happy, positive, always initiating. I love to lead, if that was your question.
Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
So, tell us a bit about your journey. I mean, how did it all started for you?
Yeah, I'll really start from the beginning. Just say, okay, my name is David Amir. I'm right now 41. I'm married. I have two children. I actually moved to the Netherlands in 2022 from Israel.
Okay.
Um, the reason we're talking now is because of the company I started, the North, which I will talk more about. But if that's okay, I'll go talk about my background and so on.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So really starting from where the dream started and what put me in this journey, I started as uh, I started programming. Really, I was always interested in the world of IT, and
Mhm.
I was fascinated in it since I was 13. So earlier I said I'm 41. So imagine that when I was 13, there was no cell phones, nothing like that, and
Yep.
there was no internet. I learned how to program from computer magazines, and I learned actually how to program in Pascal. That was the first language I learned, um, and that was always my drive. I tried to find myself within the IT world. And in 2008, I finally got myself my first high-tech job, as they say. I was a QA engineer in a small company called Igloo.
Okay.
That company created a product which does process automation. It's from the field of RPA. RPA is robotic process automation. The most prominent players in the market are Automation Anywhere, UiPath, and Microsoft Power Automate. Um, and I joined there as a QA engineer part-time and part-time as a student. Quickly, and I think that will also come into play in the story, I realized
Mhm.
that the university just is behind the industry from a technical perspective. And in addition, I didn't find the value add for myself to the work itself, because the work was technical, but I never had a technical issue. Um, and it was more around how you connect with people, more around how you understand processes. So I dropped out of university basically and focused full time on the job.
Okay.
Um, and they promoted me almost immediately from a QA engineer to the person in charge of customer support. Since it's a business-to-business company, sorry, not in charge. I was working in the department. I was 21 or 22, and sorry, 23 when I started working there.
Mhm.
Um, since it's a business-to-business company, the customer support is a super technical role. I was what you call a tier 3 customer support. I was more in charge
Okay.
of teaching the customers how to adopt and use the product that we created before even the word RPA was coined. RPA was coined later on in 2015 or 2014. Um, I worked for Igloo until 2010, when a larger company called Nice Systems acquired us, and I stayed there until 2015. I was there in a team in charge of high priority customers and POCs, until I changed to be the program manager of the APAC, Asia Pacific region. I really traveled the whole world working there. It was every week I would see a new customer. I would learn of a new business process, and I would try to break it apart into programmable software, and I would do a POC. However, it was a large corporate, and especially after I moved to be the program manager of APAC, I realized maybe the large corporate just doesn't work for me personally. I would always had the entrepreneurial spirit,
Okay.
and I was always very ambitious. I love to see things work the right way, and maybe I think this righteousness is something that an entrepreneur really needs. Um, and I kind of became fed up with the company. At no fault of theirs, right? It was all me, just to state. I just became fed up with the culture and fed up with how they're pushing things. Uh, the main point of contention for me was back then. I think it changed a lot since then. Back then, the company was focused on selling the RPA product, do
Mm-hmm.
one project, and move from the customer. Where I thought that okay, we sell the RPA product, but let's just have the battle. Like the rest of the work is consultative. We help them create a department. We help them handle this innovation, and they need to keep using the RPA product to automate more and more processes. That was my philosophy, and on that disagreement, I quit the company with
Mm-hmm.
but really with good relationship, because I quit and I told them immediately, I still want to work with you. I just don't want to work for you. And I became their business partner. It was 2015. I was 29, 30. I never managed anyone before that. And I decided, okay, this is my next step. And because of my history in the company, I already traveled the world. I met many people. I was able to get a hold of a lot of contacts that are very
Sure.
interesting. My first customer was a large IT company called Amdocs,
Mm-hmm.
and they were providing services for customers of NICE. And that's really how I got started. Um, Together with them as a freelancer, yeah, together with them, I was able to automate much quicker, much more accurately processes for large scale customers. I was always beating the deadlines of the projects, which was something that they never experienced before, because projects are always delayed. There were always arguments, and they got something completely different with me in those in the beginning, and they really pushed me to start hiring people, which was maybe I wasn't prepared to do it. Yeah, but I said, okay, you know, I already started a journey.
Yeah.
I, I've already secured working with large clients, so why not, basically? And I started working I started training more and more people. In the meantime, also NICE saw that I was gaining a lot of traction with MDocs. I was being super successful. So they also started pushing big logos towards me, also logos I knew. For example, customers that are customers of PAteam, the company I started to this day, are FedEx, the global one, and IKEA. Um, and really, in a span of 12 months, I grew from one person to a team of over 30 people. Uh, Not to neglect, of course, the my
What
partner.
was the most challenging part when you did that growth in, acquiring teams, and of course each person is different world, a different character, different skill. What was the most challenging moment for you?
Okay, so many people will see growth from 1 to 30 as something positive, maybe something to aspire to.
Yeah.
Just I want you to keep in mind that was year one in PA team out of 10. I think in my dreams I wanted to be there, but back then I did not see it as success. I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't know how to manage people, first and foremost. I didn't know how to run a company. I was relying heavily on my close team, but
Mm-hmm.
I, David, was still obsessed with control. I did not really know how to let go, and it was sort of a nightmare. I worked 18 hours every day.
Right.
All decisions of the company went through me, and I didn't let anything get moving without my personal approval. Um, and of course, I think it's easy to imagine where a situation like this goes, but I will also say it. So what happened is that I just any delivery that happened only if I signed off of it on it, and if it did not
Mm-hmm.
happen with me signing off on it, it really did not work because I failed to create a mechanism of scale delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, it's a project-based services company, so no one was working on the sales long term. No one was managing the headcount. And eventually, what happened is that 2 or 3 large-scale projects just ended, and I found myself with a lot of people and just a little bit of work, and also on the verge of a burnout on a personal note. Um, that was a harsh lesson. We lost about 2/3 of the company.
Sure.
Back then, it was really, I remember the evening before, I was preparing to tell the company, okay, we had a stop in one of the biggest projects, and I have to let everyone go. And I remember how it was so energetic in the room before I entered, and then how it was when I left. Difficult times. Um, but I stayed in it, and my core team stayed in it with me. And together, well, first of all, the change started from me, I want to say. And it's important because as the CEO, you are the enabler, you are the tone of the company. Everything happens according to what you say. And me changing really opened up the door for everyone else to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Then it was something different. We slowly started growing. I didn't say yes to any small project anymore. I started delegating and I started trusting people much more than I did before.
Okay.
Um, I removed myself as a bottleneck. I stopped managing the services actually. Um, I had my partner initially, and then another employee managed the services.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And instead of relying on unicorns, which is basically what I was looking for, I was always looking for a unicorn, a person exactly like me, who is strong technically and can talk and understand business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't find them very often. So I built a company around what's more common out there from a services perspective. And we really ended up building a real delivery machine. I feel like really pointing out that my then VP of Services um, is together with him, we built all of the processes. Actually, without him, it would have never happened. Without him and my ability to listen to him, I wish to state,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is easier said than done. Um, Ever since I took this step back, we almost within 2 months, we doubled in size. I started focusing more on sales. I started understanding, okay, what kind of a company we are, how do we sell, and we grew really again and again, and we reached at the end of my term in PAteam to 70 employees. We were spread across multiple offices around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had we have customers like IKEA, like FedEx, HMRC, and hopefully continue to have a great company. I left it myself about 6 months ago. I
Okay.
decided that I want to go on a separate way. from it.
And what was the major challenge that you found in all these decisions that you had to do or decided to do?
I can say like this, the biggest challenge, and I see it now with newer founders,
Hmm.
is the ability to lose control.
Right.
Is the ability to accept that what you're going to do is not going to be perfect. Okay, and by the way, I wish to state it that it's a lie that we tell ourselves that
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we do is perfect. Because this is what I thought. I was assuming that I'm immune of making mistakes, and therefore it was very difficult for me to trust someone else to do anything, really anything.
Hmm.
Um, and then I realized, first of all, no, I'm not perfect. That was a harsh lesson because I was sure I was perfect until that moment in time. And second of all, I need to trust people, and it's more, the key here is more clarity and trying to get to a specific target
Hmm.
than putting a mountain of expectations on them. And even my definition of what is excellent has changed from excellent is what you do well from the first try
Hmm.
to excellence is achieved with hard work and iterative improvements. No mistakes, no excellence. So I think that was the biggest lesson.
Would you say that it's natural for people, of course, to think that there's always, approaches and correct decisions to do? It doesn't matter how big you are. So you had a big achievement in there, correct?
Uh, I'm not clear on the question. Can you please elaborate it a bit?
Sure. So on all these process that you have done, you decided and had to take decisions accordingly, to all what's going on your experience and all your transformations. So to get to those conclusions when you took those decisions, um, how hard was you to build this consensus and what was the approach for you that made you decide those were the best conclusions and best decisions to do?
Okay, it's a good question. I think the creating all of those processes, well, it's something. As humans, whenever we have a big realization like that, we tend to overcorrect.
Hmm.
So when I just looked at it, I completely panicked. And I then said, okay, nothing is structured in the company. There is not a single process that we all agree on. There's not a single structured meeting. We're just a bunch of people talking to one another, really, and improvising 100% of the time. So I went to the other extreme, right? Because this is the kind of person I am. So I overcorrected completely. And I said, okay, unless it's documented, we're not talking, basically.
Right.
Um, but well, I think it's obvious to everyone listening, yeah, that that was not the right. Well, it's not a productive approach to try and fix everything in one day. That was still the old approach. What we ended up doing was to slowly create processes from an initial level. Like really, even if it's accounting, for example, and finance is important for a services-based company because you really need to pay salaries every month, but it depends on income that comes from companies that they don't pay to you every month. Sometimes it's milestone based. Sometimes there is all kind of payment terms and conditions.
Yes.
Um, so even that, like accounting, I said, okay, let's start by just having a meeting, a weekly accounting meeting, and
Hmm.
let's choose a measurement, like what's my burn rate? That's the measurement, and start monitoring it. Nothing that I created in that time was 100%. The opposite. I created very simple things and I improved them through a trial and error on time. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. What is the most significant advice would you tell to someone out there that could face, similar circumstances or maybe even the same? What
Mm.
is your best advice that you would give to anyone out there?
Well, I think if there was one advice that would have solved all the problems, then I would have said it now, and we all would have gone to our
Of
peaceful
course.
ways.
Yeah.
I think we need to accept that any change is a process and
Hmm.
be open to the process. Realize that what you did until now was working for a reason, and you want to move away from it because you know it's not working for other reasons, or you have reasons to want to reach a new place. The easiest example is when you quit smoking cigarettes. I just quit smoking cigarettes a few times. Um, when you smoke cigarettes, when you want to quit smoking cigarettes, it's because it's a health issue. You really feel it. It costs a lot of money, not only directly, but also you need to pay more insurance.
Hmm.
Um, it really feeds into your anxiety that you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so those are the reasons why you want to quit. And then you try to quit, but you forget telling yourself what were the reason you were smoking. It was fun. It made you feel popular. It was distressing. And you need to still resolve those problems for yourself. So what I'm saying is my advice is, okay, even if something is not working out now and you want to change it, you need to accept that it's going to be a process. You need to accept that what you did so far was working for a reason. You had reasons to move away from it. And then you need to slowly transition into the new situation and start handling the same tasks with different approaches.
It's like the saying. I mean, the old saying of Einstein: "Don't expect to do the same thing over and over again to expect a different result." Right? It won't
Mm,
happen. So it's you have a statement that it really impels people to you really think it over every time you have a situation.
mm,
Uh, any situation to any person, of course, will be always different. Won't exactly be the same, but in the
mhm,
end, what is the root? That there's a resolution to do, right? So I think always the best approach is whenever there's something to intend or something that you're going to see they're going to need a resolution to get into.
mhm.
Um, it's always the analysis part. It's very significant. What is
Yeah,
the root of the problem? How did it started? Where does it go? And what is the impact? And I think these three management measurements, as I would say, most people miss it out, especially
yeah,
the ones. What is the impact? Because people just see, the box. You are inside the box, but you need to look outside the box because the problem most of the times does not reside even inside the box. Sometimes the problem even is a foreign problem, and it's affecting you directly. But how did it started, right? And how does that impact you? And what is the measurement
mhm,
impact that going further? If I don't
yeah,
resolve it now, what will be tomorrow or next week or in 1 month, right? So, and I think with that, you will get a sense and common sense how to get a proper resolution um, in standby or even almost immediate to start working on it. And I think that's the best case scenario for any case. I mean, I would say, right? So, but you got it there. I mean, Even that you didn't have the experience managing personnel, you figure out that there's a way, there's a will, and you got the resolution. And
Mhm.
going from that point, you made it clear that anything can happen, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Everyone has the potential to succeed, and it's really a a question of how you work on it. I also want to add to what you're saying,
Yeah,
even to be, I agree with your approach. Now I say it's sometimes it's really helpful to ask yourself a question: am I achieving what I want to achieve?
yeah,
Is it getting, I know I'm working, but is it getting the result I want to do? And this is more than business. This is anywhere in life. Like, is this argument with my wife going to achieve what I want to achieve? And so on. And this is, I think, the deeper point behind your philosophy. And I
it,
agree with you, thinking out of the box. Sorry, you want to say, yeah?
you got a point right there. Is it getting where I wanted to get? Because
Yeah.
most of the times people forget that there's even a subject, and most of the times it's not even a subject. It's just because there's a differentiality. So people need to also understand the difference. Differentiality is not a problem. It's something that you need to work out with someone, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just the major resolution, right? A problem,
Correct. Yeah.
it's something that will impact the whole team and the business itself and the customer. So, and this is a concept sometimes people don't get into, because sometimes problems do start with difference of opinion, but that's not really a problem. It's something that people need to work out between themselves. And this is very, very common, especially when you manage even small teams. Already 30 people, you can encounter this. But
Yeah.
in a very high scale, we're talking about with thousands of people, it's even more conflicting, because we're
Yeah.
talking about thousands of different types of concept, different opinions, different ways sometimes even to do. Of course, there's memos internally. People should work all in the same direction, but we all know that in many cases, especially in very high scale projects, the differentiality from each person, even trying to prove themselves inside the project, which unfortunately there's people like this, makes it sometimes they don't even realize that they're actually stalling the project, being like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge point that I want to reaffirm, because people sometimes don't see that.
Yeah.
Because most
I.
people go into a project and they want to remark themselves, to trying to make them to be the bigger picture in the project,
Mm-hmm.
for their name to appear out, for their face to appear out. Well, this is not about you. This is about the project. This is about what you're delivering to the customer. This is about a timeline to be proceeded. So I'm talking this in general, because I've seen it happen many, many times in projects I was in scale with, in
Mm-hmm.
organizations I was with, and I saw this happen over and over again. And higher the scale, bigger the competition, and bigger the mindset and people thoughts, the way they think they work out things, wanted to show off themselves in the meeting, coming off, trying to show off, this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people should rethink. And if everyone, when you get to a meeting, for a precise point of discussion and a precise conversation about a resolution or delivery, things will go much smoother if they all work together as a team,
Yeah.
not as trying to make themselves as the presence or the key in the team. It doesn't work like that. So this is
Mm-hmm.
just a general advice I'll give to everyone. So try always work as a team. That's the way it's supposed to be, and work all on the same goal and the same perspective. Because
Yeah.
if it doesn't go like that, what you're doing is stalling the project.
Yeah. This is a common issue. what you're
Yeah,
describing.
yeah,
And I've encountered it countless times.
yeah,
Um, it actually helps to ask the person causing the situation,
yeah,
uh, what is it that you try to achieve, and are you achieving your goal?
yeah,
And that's one. But yeah, anyone aspiring to scale their company or be a CEO, they will need to handle a situation like that. And on the one hand, I agree with your approach that yeah, the approach should be different. Like, how do we face a problem together rather than having problems between us?
yeah,
Because we all know we need to deliver it, and the whatever the let's say it's a technical project. We all know we need to deliver the process live by tomorrow or by next week.
yeah,
Um, okay, so this is the problem we all face. Now, how do we solve it together? And it's that's the art.
yeah,
Maybe it brings me also to talk about these pointers brings me to talk about C-North, the company that I've started recently and launched really a week ago. Um, these exact conversations that I have with you, I also have with founders and CEOs of startups. Um, and these are the lessons I want to teach them. Like, I see these people, uh, I see myself in these people. I see myself 10 years ago, um, in those founders and co-CEOs and CEOs
yeah,
of startup companies,
yeah,
where they are super technical people. They don't know the lessons that you are saying. It's really
yeah,
how to work with people is something that's hard to mitigate. How to scale a company,
yeah,
it's not knowledge you're born with. Even if you study it, you don't really know it. It's funny. It's always like this. Like, yeah, I encountered someone who studied change management as a master's, extensively. But when they encountered it in real life, they didn't even realize that they were going through a change process. Only after I pointed out the situation. Um, so this is very complex knowledge that comes with experience and doing. And every company is different. It's okay that I just I don't want to take too much the conversation
no,
to this
no,
direction, but
but I think the ideology I think is very significant because
mhm,
sometimes people need to rethink that. Of course, there has to be a memo. Of course, there has to be a track. Of course, there has to be a timeline. Of course, there has to be a light into a procedure. But you need to make it with resolution. Having a concept of um, idealizing something that you
mhm,
actually see is not actually working for all teams, and you're not trying to change it just because you want to impose your own ideals. Well, I guess that you need to refocus then on what you're doing, right? So, what I mean is there has to be procedure,
mm,
but everyone needs to learn from each other. And the main point, especially in big organizations, is read out what is happening. Is the procedure correct?
mm,
Is actually all the teams proactive? If everything's working, what is not working? No one asks questions. So sometimes you have procedures outdated, timelines of reporting that don't actually work for current times. This happens. This
mm,
actually happens in current days, and this is because people don't recheck. This is not about getting seated in the office and having people working for you, and just being there, seeing that there's people there. Yeah, but is everything working? Is everything optimized? If not, you need to do changes. And this is where it comes the management. And sometimes this is misses out because
yeah,
you have teams there. They're going, at their time to the office. They leave at their time, but what was actually achieved? in those hours of office hours, so
Yeah.
this most
Tragic.
of the times is not done. People just see, oh, there's a lot of people, there's thousands of people sometimes, yeah, but what was achieved during those hours, was it all proactive, all the divisions, all departments communicate properly within themselves, is there resolutions, how is the SLAs to customers, how is the deliveries, how
Mm-hmm.
is the project management, how is the product development together with project management aligned, how is the time scales with SLAs according to the contract? So we're already talking about seven different, divisions that need to work
Yeah.
directly together, be proactive. What happened
Just
most of
to
the
deliver
time?
one project.
Miscommunication, sometimes misleading. Sometimes people don't get the right amendment because there's just a technical division. They need alignment to see, okay, this is what you do, but this is the way you need to do it to make it work, right? Because in the end, people need to see everyone has their skills, everyone has their qualities. That's why they are in the division. That's why the other person in the development division. But in the
Mm-hmm.
end, that has to be a focus, universal way of communicating and make it all work. It's like you have all the pieces there, but
Mm-hmm.
if you don't make all the pieces together in a puzzle and the puzzle is not fixed, then nothing is actually happening because have the people there, but actually the things are not being delivered in time. Why? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why we not accomplish SLAs? That's the question, right? So why? Because maybe product development was not get the right direction to do it. Maybe they actually deliver, but then there was somewhere between the division that need to work together. They were not correlated, and their work were not delivered in time for the actual timeline suit for the delivery. So this is the time, the actual real time correlating project scope has to be done daily.
Mm-hmm.
And I can
Yeah,
tell
I
you that
agree.
from what I know, um,
Mm-hmm.
over 90% of the companies do not do this. They do not do high scale analytics daily. They do it weekly. Of course, you're going to lose a lot of hours. So if you count, even if it is 10 or 15 hours per week, how many hours per month are you losing it? And you count all those hours in timeline. For example, if you have SLAs, you might have it even accomplished, not being in compliant with SLA because you lost almost 10 or 15 or 20 hours per week, which in the end of the month can go to 50, 60 hours. Imagine that you remove those 60 hours back, you might be even complying maybe with all the delivery, right? So time scale, time scale and project analytics always need to be aligned together and good communication between teams. That's the transparent, communication between teams and how they co-work together. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, let's set up a meeting. Sometimes people don't understand if you set up a meeting that is not proactive, you're actually losing time. A meeting, when you set up, it has to be a scope of work. It has to be a coordination work. It has to be deliverance work, saying,
Mm-hmm.
project delivery. How are we with the product? How are we on the SLA? How are we with the contract? So everyone tells you a keystone. You put it all together and say, so this is the alignment to get to this date, and
Mm-hmm.
all of them need to work together. So this sometimes missing out because there's no real time data analytics there, and sometimes people just report weekly. And when you have project delivery, especially if it's a lot of people involved, this is actually very very critical important because
Yeah.
the all those hours are like gold. Gold is like gold because if you have, for example, a delivery of a huge project that it takes like 12 months or 14 months,
Mm-hmm.
imagine how many hundreds or maybe thousands of hours you'll be saving if you are correlating all these analytics, right? So when people say, analytics is just some, no, analytics, it's practically your vision for everything. It's one of the most significant parts in any organization. I'm just
Mhm.
stating the importance of this because many companies do not take importance in this kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Super interesting what you're discussing, and of course, so just to organize it a little bit, you're saying, okay, companies need to put at least some goals or some KPIs to measure with
Yeah.
analytics to
Yeah.
know the current situation of the company
Yeah.
or the delivery or the operation, I would say.
Yeah.
A lot of it can solve a lot of problems that already exist, for example, communication issues and so on. And I want to say I agree with it. I think I want to say there are many perspectives to running a company.
Yeah.
One of the perspectives, for example, is communication, and then the question is how clear you are when you communicate the goals. How do the employees know that they achieved what is needed to be achieved?
Yeah.
How do you know that they achieved what is needed to be achieved? Is also another question.
Yeah.
And how do you create an environment where it's okay to say, I didn't achieve what I need to achieve,
Yeah.
and where it's not immediately punishable, right? Like, I mean, there are two scenarios. A person can make a mistake and improve, and there is a person that's just not right for the job. Um, the problem that we have is that companies often, or people, it's not companies, it's people, they often jump to conclusions whenever someone makes a mistake that maybe
Yeah.
they're not the right person for the job. And I'm at fault at it. Right? Also, I used to think like that. But this is not the case. People learn. And typically people improve a lot within a given role. I
Yeah.
find it very rare that people have zero improvement avenues. Yeah, no one is achieving exactly the same, but you can get something out of everyone. Um, and sometimes, really, the person is not at the right place. It also happens. But the point is to have the environment enabling these mistakes, measure what it is you're doing, and be
Yeah.
clear from day one. Be clear about what are your expectations, because in the end, the employees, and this is maybe another point I didn't make, they are coming every day and they want to be effective. They want to be productive. Most of them, 99% really of the people, they don't like working and getting money for something that they know they're not good at. Um, and I certainly saw it with 100% of the people that worked with me.
Yeah.
Um, and that leads to some problematic symptoms like, okay, I cannot make mistakes. Look at me, I'm so good. But it's also a good approach already. So if you create an environment that is has a has good communication, and what is good communication? It's clear, honest, non-violent communication,
Yeah.
um, where mistakes are allowed, where everything is clear, where the measurements are clear. Then you get a company that's more effective. They lose less hours on arguments and bickering,
Yeah.
have less mistakes, and also each person has the space to contribute. So it's no longer just the manager of the department, it's actually all of the employees pushing together at the same direction. This is where you want to get
Yeah.
from
Absolutely
this
agree with
perspective.
you. And you stated one thing that I like to point out, which is um, people usually point out because it's very convenient to point out the finger to see whoever made the mistake, right? So, and that's the totally wrong perception of things. Because people need to all work out the problem. It's not about who did this or did that. In the end,
Mm-hmm,
we're all human beings and we all commit mistakes. Nothing
mm-hmm.
is perfect. If someone tells me I never did a mistake in my life, then you're not doing anything. It's not possible. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So
yeah, it's
if I
true.
always say if you are on the water, you always get wet sometimes. And that's normal. You need to learn how to work with it, learn from the mistakes for they not happening again, of course, and make it as experience. Don't make it as negative. You should make all that from experience in the future So you see all that can be resolved positively, and you don't have any regrets regarding your past, what all was done and achieved during all your timeline of your career, because all that is experience. Is experience to know that when I did that, it didn't got me where I wanted to go, right?
Correct.
But then I'll try a new follow-up road, a new path. So
Mm-hmm.
did that path took me where I wanted to go? Yeah, so this is the correct one. So in the future, if this happen again, I know this is the correct path then to do it then, so I don't lose time. So what do you gain in this was experience, but you need
Correct.
to
And the
try it.
lessons learned. Yeah.
You will not get this experience if you not try it. You cannot guess what's going to happen tomorrow. You cannot guess what's going to happen in 1 week. You can timeline it. You can make predictions. You can do analytics, but you will not know 100% reality. You need to physically do them for you to find out exactly if that timeline was correct, all the implementation was correct, and all the deliveries was correct. And you can only do that if you actually are in it and doing it. And this is what what people comes in and said, "Oh, but I'm afraid. There's a lot of things." Well, you need to push it. I mean, there's no logic more than this. It's common sense. You want to
Yeah.
figure out what's going to be the result of something you want to implement. You need to physically do it to see what was the things that you could optimize. So you learn it also for the future. And if you did it all or 90% good in just one frame, then you know that's the correct procedure to go all the way. So just in two main paths, you are optimizing all your life because this is not about just time in work. You're optimizing also time for your personal life. It means that
Mm.
you are optimizing time. So when you get off work, you're not thinking about it because you are resoluting every day what is need to be done. And this is also very important because people sometimes, they get off work and they start thinking because the problem they had, they didn't figure out the way to resolve it and they take that home. That's wrong.
Mm.
You should leave it at work. But in order to do that, because it's the human conscious mind always is tricky. So when you have a problem and you cannot figure out, you're starting to hustle with yourself and fighting with yourself to see how do I resolve this problem? How do I gonna do
Mm.
it? So these things you're not gonna have the answer immediately. You figure out the way how to do that, but in order to figure out that, you need to physically do it,
Yeah.
and you will need to do that step further. Because if you don't commit, you'll never know, and that's how you learn. That's how you have a career. That's how you have the procedure. And after 20 years, you figure out that many things that happen with daily, you are doing it much quicker because you know all the shortcuts to get to one thing or the other, because you already
So
done
right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like it I think the approach here is discipline
it. Yeah.
and I want to say not persistence.
Perseverance,
Yeah.
persistence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the end, it's persistence,
Exactly. Yeah.
perseverance. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're persistent and disciplined, then you know how to keep the boundaries first of
Yeah.
all, and work life is a very important boundary.
Yeah.
And I agree with that point. And continue to be disciplined, continue to work in your routine, continue to try and thrive to get to where you want. Eventually, you get to
Yeah.
where you want. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that.
Yeah.
Is it okay that we talk more about C North since the time is
Yeah, sure, 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 yeah.
so? I started talking about what kind of companies I work with. It really is the reason I started the company is this calling of wanting to help people that were in similar situation like me. And we focus on two aspects of companies. We focus on scale and we focus on growth, where I feel I want to talk about the growth offering. So, what growth is really another way of it's a philosophy. Part of it is sales and marketing. But it really should manifest itself throughout the company because if you sell a lot, you have a different problem.
Right.
Um, and the way I tackle it is actually I feel like it's quite unique. I have two phases. I have a short phase of 2 to 3 months and a longer phase of 6 months in my growth plan. The first phase, we start by understanding, okay, what is in there in the company in terms of sales already. Since I only work with companies that already have a product, maybe already have a customer or two, um, I operate under the assumption that at the very least they have some sort of market fit. But did they sharpen their strategy? Maybe they also have researched a lot, by the way, and they have a lot of knowledge just sitting on the shelf waiting to be used. So I just do about 5 different items in that stage that really helps clarifying and putting things into motions.
Sure.
So first of all, we together select what's the most relevant market that we want to work on. We clarify the offer to the market and understand what problems the offer solves. That's a trick, by the way, the tricky thing. Like I want to expand on it and discuss it with you. Sales is tricky, but I'll get to it in a moment.
Sure.
So we understand what is the offer. We understand what's the penetration strategy into the market. Who do I know? How do I reach the people? What's my expectations? Then we build a marketing and sales strategy, complete with goals and KPIs to monitor.
Yeah.
And that's basically taking a company from 0 to 100 on just creating the foundation. And then the next 6 months, I help the company onboard interns from a local university here called the Hanze. And maybe I will expand it to other universities, but this is where I begin my pilot, basically. And the interns operate the program. They operate it within the boundaries we set to them. It's all of a sudden super clear. And I'm there to support the founders in how to manage these people in a way that's more productive, as we described. How do I create an environment where mistakes are okay? How am I clear with my instructions? What is good, etc. And after 6 months, with great certainty, I can say we can generate 5 leads or 1 sale if it's a business-to-business company. And after the 6 months are over, then the company can choose to hire people from the team of interns, because basically these are the best candidates you can have for your sales and marketing team. That's the growth offering we have with C North. And I also wanted to discuss the sales with you, but do you have any questions?
No, it's fine. We just wanted to go through, what do you actually guys do for people to know what you do in the market, how you help companies, how you help people. So just, going through that.
So exactly as described, I just connect with the business. I really try to listen to them and see what it is that they were trying to achieve with their product.
Sure.
I try also to see if they want to grow, because it's
Yeah.
important. If you don't want to grow, it's okay. Like it's you do you. And if they want to grow, they want to create a business, then we go through this process together, and we really transform the company, because this teaches you something. This process,
Yeah.
it teaches you something about how to sell,
Yeah.
and it teaches you something about how to manage. And on the how to sell, just as a last point of discussion due to the time,
Mhm.
I find it the most difficult thing to get your head around it, because as a technical founder, you know your product 100%. Okay, you know how
Yeah.
good it is. You know how many features it has. You know
Yeah.
exactly that your product solves a problem, okay, in the world that
Mhm.
people don't understand. But what's the tricky part is that the other side also need to see exactly like you. Maybe they don't need to see exactly like you. The other side has a problem, and you need to solve their problem, not the problem
Yeah.
that you envisioned with your product.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is the trickiest change, like to go through when you really start your sales. What do you think about it, Julio?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the correct approach. I mean, to understand what you need to develop, to understand your customer, and to deliver exactly what it needs to be delivered, either through growth or to present a product to their customer. Because sometimes you also hire to do development for timeline or project they need to present to their own customer. So in the end, what is the concept of all this? Well, you need to have an understanding what is exactly needed according to the requirements. And listen is one of the most important things when you are doing it. Because sometimes you're going on scale, you are developing your ready phase, and it comes a point that, well, I wanted this feature. This feature is not in. Why did this happen? Because the initial phase of the project, someone didn't pay attention what was said, and they focused only what they wanted to do instead of being exactly what the customer wanted to be done. So this
Yeah,
is one thing that usually happens, and you shouldn't. You know, when you sit down with the customer, it's important to listen the customer first, 100%, for you to understand what is the concept, what is needed, what kind of help does he need, and what exactly needs to be built. And with that, you start to build then the solution and the scope and the project for you then to present the customer set. So listen, we had this conversation a week ago. Now I come back. This is the solution about the discussion we had, and this will resolve exactly your problem. And you explain them why. So this is how it's supposed to be done. Well, what happened most of the time is that the listening part is not present. People just
mhm,
go to a customer, they want to sell. It doesn't matter
yes,
how, but they want to sell. But it doesn't work that way. You need to listen to the customer to see exactly what you are producing and what you want to deliver and sell to that customer actually will work there. Or is it exactly what the customer is wants you to present? Or is it actually what is needed to be presented? And it's not just about sale. You get an image and you get a reputation when you deliver exactly what was asked from you, not
yeah,
from sell something to a customer that in the end is not actually what the customer wanted 100%. So the whole concept sometimes it's misconfigured. And this
yeah,
is happens a lot of times because there's
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
teams
I
worldwide
agree with you. Yeah,
trying to call customers every day, every hour, every minute, trying to sell something, but is that actually what the customer asked you to do? So,
yeah,
this is a question that I leave out there for people to have more common sense when they produce sale. It's not just about the sale. A good
yeah,
sale will produce you more sales because that customer is going to be happy because you deliver exactly what he wanted, he or she, and customers talk around. And then they said, these people delivered exactly what I wanted. And they'll come back. And more people then will come back. And this is how it
correct.
happens.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you 100%. And
yeah,
even then, by the way, I want to add, like if you really sell from a consultative approach,
yeah,
then listening is also sometimes not exactly what the customers say they want, is to understand together with the customer what are their goals, what is
yeah,
it that the customer is trying to achieve,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
together it's a collaborative effort to reach what it is that we built.
yeah.
That's taking it to the next level.
Of course, of course. And that's why you build the solution accordingly, of course. So, David, what is, I mean, how you see yourself within the next 5 years? I mean, what are your major transformations that you have in mind, and how you see yourself within the next, let's say, 4 or 5 years?
Wow, it's a very good question. I'm now um, it's interesting. I'm now in this process of change because I used to be the CEO of PAteam for the last 10 years, and I'm just starting this new business now.
Hmm.
Um, And I've been asking myself this question in the last 6 months many times. And I know what my goal is. My goal is to create more businesses, to be more at least financially successful, to increase my impact.
Hmm.
It's also part of my vision. I want to truly contribute to the economy in a positive way. I
Yeah,
want to see the students that, in my opinion, they study in institutions that are, they have the right intentions, but
yeah,
they don't give the right training. And I saw it, I was from the side, I never graduated myself. And I was always jealous of people graduating and having masters and PhDs and so on. And I realized that in the end, learning something doesn't give you experience in doing it. So that's one thing I want to contribute to in the next 5 years. Take students and actually have them change into employees.
yeah,
And the other thing is I want to really improve the economy, like help other businesses sell, help them become viable,
yeah,
make other people successful, and
yeah.
in turn it will make my immediate environment more successful. Will they make the world more successful? So in 4 or 5 years, I see myself as a person who has maybe more than one company operating in that field. How can I bring success in sales and success
Yeah.
in innovation, adopt AI more, uh, and see how you can work in a more efficient way and increase the productivity of the individual.
Of course, absolutely. I won't say
Mhm.
better myself. So, before we finish, I always ask my guests to say a power message in the matter of getting a positive perspective for everyone out there that are starting the business or going through this same path. What would be your power message today?
Uh, Anyone trying to just start their business? I mean, there are two messages I would like to say in the end.
Okay.
Like, first of all, if you want to take your company and scale it and make it grow, I mean, you build a product, but you want to start seeing real sales. Maybe you have a customer, but how do you get to the next 50? Or you know your technology, but then how do you know what a company is and how do you grow it?
Yeah.
Um, just reach out to me at cnorth.nl. It's a Dutch dot .nl is not in Dutch.
Hmm.
Um, and then that's like on that aspect. And the second message is, yeah, I mean, be strong, be positive. Uh, it's not about motivation, it's about discipline,
Yeah.
and it's about choosing to see the positive parts.
Yeah.
Um, to be an entrepreneur is something that not many people choose in the end.
Yeah.
Um, and the people that choose it because they they want to see something that is of theirs
Hmm.
coming into real life. So my message to them is just be strong, be persistent. In the end, it happens.
Yeah.
Just the more you, but listen to yourself and to the reality. That's important. So try, fail, try again after you've
Yeah.
learned your lesson and so on.
Yeah.
Don't shut the reality out.
Absolutely. So, with all this, David, it was a great conversation. I appreciate your time today here, and hope to see you soon in another episode also. And
Oh,
hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. Hope it was insightful, and catch you up on the next episode. Thank you all for watching.
thank you, Julio, for having me. The pleasure was mutual. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you.